It's time for your Low Country real estate market update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning, Charleston. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Thanks for joining me this morning as we talk about housing here in the Low Country, giving you expert news and reviews on our housing market, and sharing some stories and experiences with you along the way of somebody that's been doing this for about a decade now, selling real estate for 10 years, sold about 1,000 homes. So giving you the benefit of that knowledge and that experience, and talking more about the real estate market, and really just delivering the truth and setting some proper expectations for you guys out there looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. So got a lot to talk about this morning. First thing I want to say is that I'm in the studio today taking your phone calls. Would love to have some conversations with you guys about real estate. Anything you want to discuss, feel free to give me a call here in the studio. The number here is 843-556-1250. That's 843-556-1250. And now, if you want to have a private conversation with me off air, you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in a home, then give me a call on my cell phone. That number is 843-345-1273, 345-1273, or go to listingsincharleston.com. Learn more about me and my team and what we sell and how we do it. And you can also learn more about our 2.4% listing commission. Yes, I said that correctly. 2.4% listing commission to sell your home. 1.5% commission to sell your home and then buy another with us. And my preferred lender will pay up to $5,000 of your closing costs for working with our team. So trying to save you guys some money this summer. Feel free to reach out to me to learn more about that. 843-556-1250 is the number in the studio, and 345-1273 is my personal phone number. So let me tell you what I want to talk about this morning. I want to get some of the boring stuff out of the way first. I know some of you have kind of a love-hate relationship with the numbers that I deliver on this program, but I'm a big numbers guy. I watch the market very carefully, very closely. I talk with my clients every week about what's happening in our market. It's part of my communication guarantee that I offer in my listing agreement. So we stay on top of things. I want to talk about that first. A little later on, we need to have a little chat about lowball offers in this market. We want to talk about lowball offers, when to make them, when not to make them, if you're a seller, how to respond to them. I want to talk about the process of selling your home and buying another. We're going to talk about contingencies. We're going to talk about home sales contingencies. We're going to talk about how do we effectively put your home on the market, put it under contract, have it be contingent upon you buying a home, vice versa. We're going to walk through all of those steps so that you guys understand that process in better detail. And then lastly, we're going to talk about as-is contracts. What does that really mean? There are some things that you really need to know if you're going to sell your home to somebody and you're going to put as-is on that contract. So we're going to talk about that and more here over the next hour on this program. Again, the number here, 843-556-1250 if you have some generic questions. But let's jump right into some of these market stats. The big news in our local market continues to be a shortage of inventory. I have said it for months and months and months at this point. Nothing has changed. In fact, our months of inventory continues to decline. If you look at the amount of listings that we had at the end of the year in 2015, and then you look at the amount of listings we had in January of 2016, I'm not joking when I say that about 1,000 properties disappeared from our market. Why did that happen? Well, a lot of listing agreements are written to expire on December 31st. A lot of those listing agents didn't get those homes sold. A lot of those sellers are trying to figure out what to do over the course of the next few months. They don't really want to put it back on the market January 1st. They want to wait until spring or summer, which here it is. But we didn't recover. We missed out on those listings going back on the market. So buyers that are looking, that have been waiting patiently for all these new listings to hit the market, not there. We have not recovered yet. So if you look at the amount of new listings in total that we've had this year to date, versus the same amount of time last year, new listings are up about 5%, but pending sales, whenever we put a home under contract, we consider that a pending transaction. Pending sales are up 17%. We've done almost 1,400 more pending contracts this year than we did last year. We've only put 500 more listings on the market. So we're putting more homes on the market and our closings are up 8%. So what happens when we have a shortage of inventory and people are purchasing more homes and in less time and for more money? Prices go up. So across the board, the median sales price increase in the Tri-County area is 6.6%. The median home value is $235,000 in the Charleston Tri-County area. So this brings me to two important things. First of all, inventory. I want to talk about this for just a second more. In May of 2015, we had 6,700 homes available for sale in the MLS. Last month, we had 5,200 homes. We have lost 1,500 homes. That's a reduction of 22%. But if you look at the month's supply of inventory, which is what we as real estate professionals use to measure the health of a real estate market, essentially, we help them, help our clients better understand whether it's a buyer's market or a seller's market or a neutral market by looking at things like the month's supply of inventory. In May of last year, we were at 5.3 months of inventory, which is just barely a seller's market. Normal market is somewhere around 6 to 8 months worth of inventory, by the way. That's a balanced market. There's no upward or downward pressure on pricing. There's no over or under supply of homes. It's just a fairly stable market. Prices are increasing in line with inflation. But as months of supply decrease, obviously as less homes are available, and as buyers are now more motivated to buy a home based on low interest rates, even lower, by the way, over the past few days, now we're at 3.5 months worth of inventory. Not a lot of homes out there if you're trying to buy a house. So that takes me to, if you're a buyer and you're looking out there, let's use the example of somebody that could have bought something last year, and for whatever reason, they didn't get their act together, or something happened in their life, or they just decided to rent because it was easier, or they wanted to save more money, whatever the case might be. Let's say they were looking in Mount Pleasant at a $300,000 house. Well, now that same house in Mount Pleasant is more than likely worth $330,000, $340,000. We've seen a huge increase in certain price ranges and in certain areas of our market. And it's very frustrating for buyers that are trying to save to buy a home. First-time home buyers is a classic example, trying to get out of debt, trying to get out of mom's basement, trying to buy their first home. But prices continue to go up. The saving grace is interest rates. Interest rates are still really, really low. So there's something called the Housing Affordability Index. And I've talked about this on this program before, and it's something that I think is important to watch. But the Housing Affordability Index basically, obviously it measures the affordability of a market, but it takes the median income, the average income of an area, and the median value of a home at prevailing interest rates, and it measures how affordable homes in that particular market are. So a Housing Affordability Index of 100 would mean that, yes, homes are affordable and that the median cost of home ownership matches perfectly with the median income at prevailing interest rates. Well, our Housing Affordability Index right now is at 120. Homes are still affordable despite what people say about the huge increases in pricing and the fact that there's hardly any inventory out there. There are some good buys out there. There are ways of getting good deals on real estate in this market. The challenge is getting creative in finding those listings before everybody else knows about them. And so that's what I want to talk about next. We're going to take a break. We're going to talk about finding properties off market. We're going to talk about lowball offers. We're going to have a little chat about that. So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. The number in the studio here, 556-1250. Or give me a call, 843-345-1273. And remember to go to listingsincharleston.com for more info on the 2.4% listing commission and up to $5,000 in closing costs paid for our preferred lender. We'll stick around. We'll be right back.
Find Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Welcome back, Charleston. Thanks again for tuning in to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. Always appreciate those of you that take time out of your weekend to listen to me. I get a lot of calls on this show, both from people that just have some general knowledge questions and of course, people that want to buy, sell, invest real estate. But there's a lot of real estate agents that listen to this program. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much to those of you that share your kind words with me about this program. I love doing it. It's frankly a little therapeutic for me to be able to come on here and have a long week, most of the time a very successful week, sometimes a very strenuous week, and talk about the real estate market. You know, tell you guys what's going on, give you the honest opinion of what's happening in our market, and educate you guys so that when it comes time for you to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, you've got some realistic expectations based on current market trends so that you can take advantage of that situation and get as much money as possible. So, again, the number here in the studio, I am live today taking your phone calls. The number 843-556-1250, 556-1250. And if you'd like to have a conversation with me in private about your interest in doing something real estate related, feel free to call my cell phone at 843-345-1273 or go to listingsincharleston.com. And don't forget about my 2.4% listing commission to sell your home this summer. And if you work with us, then the preferred lender on my team will pay $5,000, up to $5,000 of the closing costs for the buyer that purchases your home. And then you get to save another $5,000 when you buy a home. So up to $10,000 in savings and mortgage-related costs. And then, of course, my reduction in commission, trying to save you guys some money this summer. So feel free to reach out to us. Listingsincharleston.com is the website. Let me talk for just a second about finding properties that are not on the market right now, but that want to sell their house. I'm not going to give away a lot here because a lot of real estate agents listen to this show. I don't want them knowing everything that I do. But obviously, it's a struggle right now to try and find an abundance of properties that fit your search criteria. It's even more challenging to find something that you would consider to be the perfect home. And then on top of that, it's even more challenging to find something you would consider to be the perfect home that nobody else knows about. Multiple offers are still very real. They're happening often in our market. If your home is priced well, it's in good condition, and it's being marketed properly to the proper people, you will sell quickly. You should sell in 30 days or less, and it's highly likely that you will be in a multiple offer situation. If everything is done correctly, that's the goal. All of that is, of course, price dependent and dependent upon your motivation to sell. Not everybody wants to drop their price, and not everybody wants to wait around for the perfect price, whether it takes 3 months or 10 months. But let's talk for just a second about finding these properties. One thing that we're doing right now is when we work with buyers, as kind of an advantage to working with our team. You know, I have 15 people on my team. I have buyer agents, myself that takes listings and sometimes work with buyers on a case-by-case basis, administrative staff, full-time employees. Their only job is to call people and find new business. You know, I tell people that I'm in two industries. I'm in the same industry, real estate, but I have two jobs. Job number one is to help my clients buy and sell real estate. Job number two is to find people to help buy and sell real estate. The really successful real estate agents out there, and frankly, the successful people in any industry that's sales-based, excel at both of those things. Finding the business and then taking care of business. So, how do we find these buyers? I'm going to answer this now. Sorry for the rant. One thing we're doing is we're learning more about what the buyer wants. We're honing in on specific neighborhoods that they want to be in, and then we're using our ability through the MLS to search tax records and to search for properties that maybe were on the market several years ago that didn't sell, obviously when prices were much lower. And we're finding these properties that at some point in time raised their hand and said, hey, I'm interested in selling my home, and it didn't sell for whatever reason. So that's one group. The other group are just the people that simply live in a home that have the bedroom, bathroom, square footage requirement, location requirement that buyer has, and then we are sending those people letters in the mail. We're not texting them, we're not emailing them, we are sending them some straight up handwritten letters saying, we have a very interested buyer looking for a home in your neighborhood. This is a real thing. This isn't a sales gimmick. If you've considered selling your home, please give us a call. And we're starting to get some good calls. And the fun thing is we're putting buyers in touch with sellers that nobody else knows about. It's awesome when that happens. And that's, I think, what happens when you go the extra mile for your client. We have ways of finding properties for people rather than just, walking into the office at 10 o'clock in the morning and kicking off our flip-flops and putting them on our desk and then searching the MLS to try and find some properties and taking the lazy approach. We try to be very proactive, and it's working well. So if you're a buyer and you're struggling to find inventory right now, give me a call. We'll walk you through that process. And you never know. We might find you something that no one else knows about. So enough about that. Let me talk about once you find the house you want. Once you find the house you want to buy, you want to own it, you want to live in it, you want to have it be your home, you want to create memories there. It is very challenging for you to be in a position where you're going to get the best deal possible on that home if you choose to make a ridiculous lowball offer. And so I want to talk about this for just a few minutes. And again, if you have questions about lowball offers, maybe you think differently. Maybe you think it's a good idea. I'd love to hear your opinion on this. Give us a call. 843-556-1250 is the number here in the studio. Let's have a chat about it. But so as far as lowball offers go, when can you make them as a buyer? When should you not make them as a buyer? And then as a seller, how do you respond to them without just being, frankly, I was going to say another word, but mad, angry. You can find the synonym of your choice. But as a buyer, here's something that you can do, in my opinion. If you want to make a lowball offer, try and focus on the properties that either need a lot of work, that nobody else really wants to buy, or that there's some sort of issue or restriction with getting a mortgage. A bunch of properties that have a ton of work that needs to be done. You can't get an FHA or a VA loan on those. So you're only working with a cash buyer or somebody that's going to put down 10 or 20%. So find the properties that need some work and make them a lowball offer, or find the properties that have been listed for several months and make them a lowball offer. Obviously, there's something going on there, and that's part of the challenge if you're a seller in overpricing your property, by the way. I know we're not really talking about that right now, but if you're a seller and you overprice your house and you stay on the market for 4, 5, 6 months without really having that difficult conversation with your agent and then getting real about the price that it actually will sell for, then that's exactly what buyers are going to think. What is wrong with this house? Why hasn't it sold? It's a good market. It's a hot market. If it was worth what they were asking, it would have already been sold. So as a buyer, use that to your advantage and say, hey, this home has been on the market for several months. It hasn't sold. Here's what I'm willing to offer. Now, if you're working with a real estate agent, we have the ability in the MLS to check on what we call the history of a property. We get to see whenever a home has been listed. It doesn't go back forever, obviously, but over the past 20 years or so, we can see when properties hit the market. And so let's say that we see a house and it's been on the market for 5 months, hasn't sold. Well, I'm going to immediately go into the history of that property and I'm going to see, was it on the market previously with another agent? Did they try selling it last year and it didn't sell? What price did they set? In some instances, sellers have now gotten to the point where they're greedy. They haven't done a thing to the property. They tried selling it last year, and let's say that they tried it at $500,000 and it didn't work. They had it on the market for 6 months. It didn't sell. Now they're on the market either with a new or the same agent, but they're asking $535,000. I just looked at this listing yesterday. That's a real thing. What happened in order for them to create that kind of value? Well, I think the issue was, number one, they were overpriced at $500,000, and now they're extremely overpriced at $535,000. So that's a good opportunity to make a lowball offer. Frankly, it's not worth what they're asking. So all of this is contingent upon what the house is actually worth. Now, if you find a property and you love it, you want to live in it, you want to create memories there, it is the home for you. Don't start off the process by offering them something ridiculous that you just know they are not going to accept. Make a competitive offer, because here's what's happened. Here's what's happening basically in our market. One of two things are happening. Either a buyer is making a lowball offer, the seller is frustrated, the seller automatically kind of closes the door on any sort of rebuttal, any sort of counter. They're like, this guy isn't serious, whatever, let's just keep looking. Well, you don't know that as a seller until you counter to find out what they're actually willing to pay. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. So number one, buyers are making lowball offers. They're making unrealistic offers. Or number two, they're paying what the seller wants, and then they're trying to beat them up after the fact when it comes to things like the home inspection and the termite inspection and the appraisal and things like that. And so we're going to talk about that in our next segment. But when you're a buyer and you're going to make a lowball offer, just understand that it can tarnish the potential relationship between you and the seller and extremely limit your ability to have that seller think clearly and in a level-headed state of mind, rather than automatically getting emotional about the fact that they are now offended because of the offer you've made. In some instances, it is very hard to get the seller out of that mindset. Frankly, I think that's why some sellers hire real estate agents rather than going as a for sale by owner. They understand that they're an emotional person. Real estate is an emotional transaction. So for a lot of people out there that see a lowball offer, once they see that lowball offer, it's done. It's more than likely not going to work. I try to coach my clients through that process and through that emotional roller coaster, if you want to call it that. And so if you're a seller, it's very possible that that buyer has just gotten some bad advice. Case in point, literally yesterday, I had an offer on a property that was about 15% below what we're asking. And it's priced well. It's worth every single penny of what we're asking for that house. So I called this agent. I said, hey, just tell me what's going on with this offer. I mean, they obviously understand that we're not going to take this offer, right? She's like, yeah, it's first-time home buyers. They're 30 years old. They took some advice from their parents. They probably shouldn't have. They didn't follow my advice, and that's what they wanted to offer. So I definitely encourage you to counter because they're willing to pay more. Well, obviously, separate issue is that agent should have never told me that they're willing to pay more. But it happens all the time. I get all these agents to tell me things that they shouldn't tell me. But anyways, and the more agents that listen to this are going to wise up to my tricks here. But I talked to the seller and I said, look, here's how I think we should play this. We're going to sit on this offer for a minute. We're not going to respond immediately. We're not going to respond emotionally. But what we are going to do is we are going to come up with everything that we want in this contract that we should change to be in our favor. Let's look at earnest money. Let's look at closing date. Let's look at inspection times. Let's look at closing costs and all of those other things first. And let's get it the way we want it in regards to the terms of the contract. And then let's go back to them with a price that is favorable to us. And here's how I pitch this to the other agent is we're going to say something like, hey, we appreciate the offer. We understand that your buyers are probably expecting a counter from us and that they probably didn't think we were going to sell it for that amount. So here's what we're going to do. It took me a while to get this seller to this point, which is why we didn't respond immediately. They initially wanted to just reject the offer. And I've talked them through that process. So here's what we're going to do. I'm submitting a counteroffer to you right now, and we've taken $2,500 off our asking price. Essentially, we are paying $2,500 for you to show us what this buyer is actually willing to pay. And if the buyer doesn't come back with something that we really like, we're just not going to spend any more time on this offer because the first offer was not realistic, and I think they know that. In having that conversation with that agent, it then puts the ball back in their court and sets the understanding that, hey, if you guys come up, a very small amount and you still try to play the game, or if that's actually indicative of what you're willing to pay for the property and not much more, then let's just not spend any more time on it because it's not going to happen. But as a seller, it's worth it to take that step. I'm telling you it's worth it. And the reason it's worth it is, here's a great case in point. I had a $1.4 million seller in Mount Pleasant, on the water, beautiful home, very, very nicely done, listed for 1.4. We got an offer for $1 million. That's seriously low, obviously. Incredibly low. The seller did not want to respond in any way, shape, or form. And I said, here's what we should do. why don't you just come up with a number that you would be happy with if someone were to make you that same cash offer at that price? Let's work on the terms and let's put it back in their court. And if they take it, great. If not, then hey, at least we tried. Well, guess what? I got the seller over the hurdle of being mad and angry and frustrated, and I got him to think intelligently and as a business person, and we submitted the counteroffer, and the buyer took it. I will frankly admit that both I and the sellers were shocked that they took it, but it's always worth a shot if you're a seller. Don't get so frustrated by these lowball offers. Buyers are going to make them. Sometimes they just can't help it. They literally can't help it. They have to say to themselves, well, you never know unless you ask. So don't get too caught up in the fact that there's going to be a lowball offer or two throughout the course of your listing. If you price it well, it's in good condition, and it's marketed well, it will sell for fair market value. You know, we've already done like 90-something transactions this year on my team. We're selling homes in 32 days and for 98% of asking price. It's a strong market if you're a seller, but if you're a buyer, you really have to tread carefully in the offer that you make. It has to be good enough to get the seller to respond. The goal in negotiating is to get the seller to reveal their cards. We're playing poker here. So you have to make them an offer good enough to entice them to respond, to find out what they're actually willing to sell it for. If you go so low that they reject the offer, well, then you've just shot yourself in the foot, because now you have to go back at a higher amount, and you've got to kind of guess what that number is. So if I can help you in any way, shape, or form, if you have specific questions about making offers or about finding those properties off market like we just discussed, then give me a call. 843-345-1273 is my cell phone number. And my website is listingsincharleston.com. Remember, the 2.4% listing commission to sell your home this summer, 1.5% commission to sell your home and then buy another with my team. And then if you work with my preferred lender, he will pay up to $10,000 in closing costs for the buyer that purchases your home and then for you when you buy your next home. So stick around, because when we come back, we're going to talk about the process of selling your home and buying another at once. It's called a home sale contingency. Very common occurrence in this market. So stick around. Remember to give me a call if you want more information on, or if you have a question, comment, objection, whatever. 843-556-1250 is the number in the studio. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
The Big Talker, WTMA.
Now, the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues on Charleston's Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston. Thanks again for tuning in to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on 1250, the Big Talker. If you have questions, comments, you want to talk about the real estate market, give us a call here in the studio. 843-556-1250 is the number, 843-556-1250. And if you want to have a private conversation with me off air about your real estate needs, give me a call on my cell phone. That number is 843-345-1273. Again, 843-345-1273. Or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. You can learn more about me and who I am and what I sell and what I do and all that fun stuff. Listen to previous versions of this show and learn more about my 2.4% listing commission to sell your home this summer with us. That's the lowest commission out there for the most service, the most marketing you're going to find. And then when you sell your home, I've partnered with the lender. That lender will pay up to $5,000 of the buyer for your home's closing costs. And then that same lender will pay up to $5,000 of your closing costs when you buy a house. So well over $10,000 in potential savings for working with my real estate team. Would love to have that conversation with you and help you in any way we can. Again, 345-1273 is my cell, and listingsincharleston.com is the website. So let me talk about home sale contingencies, selling your home before you buy another. It's a very common occurrence in this market, and obviously most people that want to sell their house and buy another one do not have the luxury of simply owning two houses. Some do, most don't. So when you decide to move out of the current house you own and buy another, it requires a lot of finesse from the agent you're hiring to assist you in that process. Now, I am really proud to say that throughout my career in selling real estate, which has been about a decade of selling real estate to the tune of about 1,000 transactions, I have never made anybody homeless, and I hope to never have that happen. You try and protect your clients as best you can, but I've been able to do that by contractually protecting my clients and in not taking unnecessary risks. You have to realize that as unfortunate as this sounds and as unfortunate as it is to say, some agents really struggle with writing contracts properly. They struggle with writing a bulletproof contract without the added stress of selling a home and buying another for the buyer or seller. So when you hire a real estate agent and you're talking about the process of putting another home under contract and then having it be contingent upon the sale of your home, that is it can potentially be a very complicated, and it is almost always a stressful ordeal. So the agent that you hire has to understand how to protect you contractually, because there are things that can go wrong. There are plenty of things that can go wrong. It doesn't matter if you're buying a home contingent upon the sale of your home, or you're just buying a home, or you're just selling a home. There's obviously things that can go wrong in any real estate transaction. It's your agent's job to make you aware of those potential risks, whether or not those risks are consistent with your goals, so that we're not putting you in an unnecessarily risky environment or taking on unnecessary risk, and then helping you understand the contract and the angles and the outs and the protections in place so that you can rest easy at night. So having said that, there's two types of home sale contingencies. And again, call me if you have questions about this. 556-1250, 843-556-1250 is the number in the studio here. But there's two types of home sale contingencies. There is the sale and settlement contingency and the settlement contingency. Now, as the name implies, obviously, a sale and settlement contingency is dependent upon the buyer selling and settling on an existing home. It's a type of contingency used where the buyer has not yet received an offer on their house. They want to put something else under contract so that they've lined up another home, and then they're going to put their home on the market. So it's the purchase of the home that they're buying is contingent upon the sale and settlement of the home they currently own. Well, obviously, a settlement contingency is that their home is likely already under contract, and now they're going to go and try and find a home to buy. So it's just contingent upon that contract on their home closing. So it's not like they have to put it on the market and wait for a buyer for their home and so on and so forth. So a settlement contingency, obviously, less can go wrong. There's a lot less hurdles to jump through. So let me give you some considerations if you're a buyer. As I mentioned, most buyers need to sell their existing home to purchase a new one, especially when they're trading up to a more expensive house. A home sale contingency gives buyers the time they need to sell and settle before committing to a new home by avoiding owning two homes and holding two mortgages at one time. So a home sale contingency can also make for a seamless transaction. The buyer can sell one home and move into the next one since the new home is already locked in or under contract. But even though a home sale contingency helps bring peace of mind to the buyer, it doesn't avoid the other costs of home buying. Buyers still have to send money on home inspections and bank fees and appraisal fees and the expenses associated with determining whether or not you actually want to buy the home that's under contract. And those fees are not refundable. And most of the time, those sellers are going to require, let's say that, all right, so let's just use an example here, okay? Let's say that you want to buy a house. You need to sell your home first. So you go out and you put a home under contract. And it's contingent upon the sale and settlement of your existing home. That seller that you made the offer on, let's say that they take the home sale contingency and they're okay with that. What they're more than likely going to say is that, all right, well, we're not going to wait around for your home to go under contract, for you to get your home inspection and start processing your mortgage and getting an appraisal. You're going to have to behave as if you're closing on this home in the next 30 days. So you're going to have to do your inspections. You're going to have to get your appraisal, and all of that's going to total somewhere around $1,000. So there are costs associated with putting that home under contract and then going through the contingencies in that contract. It's not a risk-proof deal. It's not like you get to put a home under contract, and if it doesn't work out, then, oh well, I didn't spend any money, no harm, no foul. There is more than likely going to be some cost if you're a buyer. So that's something that you really need to take into consideration. Plus, you're going to have to put down earnest money. You have to have enough cash in the bank to put down. Typically, 1% of the purchase price is what earnest money is. And if you don't have that because it's tied up in the equity in your home, well, then we're going to have to figure out another solution. But call me and we'll talk about that. But if you're a seller here's what you need to understand with regard to home sale contingencies. Before you agree to a home sale contingency, you, the seller, and me, the agent, need to investigate several things. Number one, is the buyer's home already on the market? If not, this is usually a red flag because it indicates the potential buyer is just thinking about buying and selling and they haven't fully committed to it. Okay. Or they're only going to sell if they can buy your specific home. So that's number one. Number two, if it is listed, is it listed at the correct price? You know, a real estate agent can tell you what the home is worth that they're trying to sell in order to buy yours. If they're overpriced, well, then guess what? The great thing about real estate contracts is you can put just about anything in a real estate contract. And so you could say as a seller, I am going to accept your offer contingent upon the sale of your home. However, you have to reduce your price by 2% every 10 days over the course of the next 30 days until it goes under contract. If it does not go under contract, then we have the right to cancel this agreement. So as a seller, you need to think about how long you're willing to wait for this buyer to sell their home. You need, in my opinion, because this is such a hot market and because, it's right in the middle of summer. It's the best time of year to sell a house. If you're going to take a home sale contingency, it has got to be worth it. You got to get your price and you got to get your terms. If you don't, then stick around. You're probably going to get a better offer with better terms. I say that, which is a pretty bold statement. There are obviously plenty of people out there that are struggling to sell their house. And if they are, a home sale contingency is actually a pretty darn good thing for them. They get to lock in a contract and they still, in many cases, let me switch gears for just one quick second because I'm going to take a break. But if you're a seller, let me go through this list again. Number one, is the home on the market or not? Number two, if it is on the market, is it at the correct price? Number three, how long has that property been on the market? How long are you willing to wait for that home to sell? Can you put some sort of stipulations in place that state the buyer has to reduce the price of their home every so often, or they have to put it under contract within a certain amount of time? And if they don't, you have the right to cancel that agreement. And then the last thing is something called a kick-out clause. A kick-out clause means that if someone makes an offer on a house and they have to sell their home first, the seller can accept that contract, but they still have the right to receive offers on the property. And if another offer comes in that does not contain a home sale contingency, they have the right to essentially kick you out of the process. So you as the buyer have the choice of either moving forward and buying the house without selling yours first, or if you can't, then you got to move to a backup position because the seller's going to take the other contract. There's a lot more that I can talk about this process. The most important thing to understand is that if you're going to buy a home and you need to sell yours first, you need to have a very in-depth conversation with your real estate agent about that. That's something I'm happy to help you with. So give me a call. My number personally is 843-345-1273, 345-1273. Or you can go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. We can have a conversation about your real estate needs. And don't forget, if you're going to sell your home, 2.4% listing commission. If you're going to sell your home and then buy another, 1.5% listing commission. Who else is doing it for that low? I don't know. Nobody. So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. We will be right back.
It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Broadcast Saturday mornings at 9 and Sunday mornings at 10 on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
WTMA.
Expert news and views on the Lowcountry real estate scene. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston. Just a few minutes left in the hour to talk about real estate here in the Lowcountry. Thanks again for tuning in to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Remember that if you have a question, comment, or interest in buying, selling, or investing in real estate, then give me a call. My number personally is 843-345-1273. Again, that's 843-345-1273. Or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. Learn more about me and who I am and what we do and our marketing, and of course our 2.4% listing commission to sell your home, and our preferred lender that will pay up to $10,000 in closing costs for the buyer for your home and then for you when you buy a home. So trying to save you guys some money this summer, give us a call so we can help you do that. 843-345-1273. Now, I want to talk about something for just a few minutes because we've only got a few minutes left in the hour. And I want to talk about as-is sales. So in this market, most of the time, the buyer is giving the seller the price the seller wants since our market is slanted toward benefiting the seller rather than the buyer. It's a very common occurrence in a seller's market for buyers to pay the seller's price or very close to the seller's price. You know, we talked earlier about lowball offers and how that just ain't happening right now. Very, very rarely are you going to find someone that's going to even respond to a lowball offer. But some buyers have really wisened up and are using every tool and trick in their belt to try and get a good deal. And good for them. Obviously, we do it when we're representing a buyer. I think that this show is really more slanted towards sellers, and that's really more of what I do personally, but my team, of which there are 15 of us, we help anybody and everybody. Anybody that wants to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, we have specialists for those kinds of things. But as it relates to buyers, some buyers are going to do this. They are going to dangle the carrot of an as-is sale once the price is agreed upon. So what they're going to do is they're going to write sold as is into the contract. Here's the problem. In a seller's market, again, buyers are finding creative ways to still get a good deal. So even though the contract might have language written into it that says as is sale, in most cases, the buyers still have the right to ask for repairs once the home inspection is completed. All you've simply done by writing quote unquote as is into the contract is setting the precedent that the seller won't agree to make any repairs at that price. Well, unfortunately for the seller, buyers are still asking for those repairs. They're smart. They're waiting for you, the seller, to get so excited about the prospect of moving that they try to rope you into the idea that it's a done deal. You know, you've told your friends you're moving. You've gone house shopping. In some cases, you've made plans to move. You might even have put a home under contract with the home sale contingency, which we just discussed. So now the buyer thinks they've backed you into a corner, and they're going to say, I know we agreed to an as-is sale, but there were items found that we're not okay with, so either you fix them or we're going to walk and we get our earnest money back. This is why writing contracts correctly is so incredibly important, which is what we've been talking about a lot this hour. Protecting yourself contractually. Writing as is on a contract, doesn't really do much. It actually, frankly, doesn't do anything. It doesn't obligate the buyer to purchase the property without asking for repairs. They still have the right to ask. They still have the right to walk if you don't agree to make those repairs. So as a seller, what do? You risk losing the deal in the house you're already put under contract because you don't want to make some repairs. That's obviously a function of how motivated you are. But again, this is where writing the contract and the language within it is vital. Most buyers aren't going to agree to waive their rights to a home inspection. I just learned of a buyer that was a friend of a friend that bought a home through another real estate agent, and he was convinced to waive the home sale or waive the home inspection contingency. First-time home buyer. Doesn't make a lot of money, but great guy, bought his first place as a small little condo, and he was thinking he was getting a good deal, so he got talked into waiving the home inspection. Well, what happened when he closed was about a week later, he found out he had to replace the entire AC unit. And there are plumbing issues, and there are electrical issues. He's got like $8,000 worth of repairs to do on this condo that's maybe worth $75,000. Totally screwed. He doesn't have the cash to do it. So he's now having to figure that out. So most buyers in this market are not going to waive their right to a home inspection. You have got to be getting such a ridiculously good deal that it makes sense to waive the home inspection. But most buyers aren't going to agree to do that. So what's going to happen is you're going to write sold as is in the contract, and then that buyer is either still going to ask you for repairs, and you're going to say yes or no, and you're going to negotiate accordingly. The only way to really get an as-is sale is to totally remove any rights of the buyer to ask for repairs. And if they do, then maybe you say something like, hey, you still have the right to do the inspection, but if you ask me for repairs, once that happens, then you relinquish half of your earnest money, regardless of whether we make it work or not. There's different ways around it. And those are the kinds of things that we can talk about off air. So if you'd like to give me a call, discuss working together as your real estate agent, we'd love the opportunity. Feel free to call me personally, 843-345-1273. That's my cell phone, 345-1273, or go to listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Remember, 2.4% commission to sell your home. Thanks again, Charleston. Have a great weekend. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Join us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning at 9 and Sunday morning at 10. Contact Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. 843-345-1273.